I hope it's an indication that the physicians have given him permission to do this. We pray for the president's comfort and a speedy recovery for him. He has to remember, though, that his words weigh a ton. As President of the United States, if he is acting frivolously with this virus, as he has done all along, this is dangerous for the American people.
Hi again, everyone. Nearly 72 hours after arriving at the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, Donald Trump is about to head back to the White House. The president tweeted this afternoon that he plans to leave Walter Reed at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's about 90 minutes from right now. Even though he says he's feeling better, Trump still seems to be downplaying the virus that has killed more than 210,000 Americans and sickened him and more than 7 million others. In his tweet, the president wrote this, quote, "Don't be afraid of COVID. Don't let it dominate your life." Not long after he sent that tweet, his doctors came out to provide an update on the president's health. While White House physician Dr. Sean Conley gave a rosy picture of the president's recovery, he was evasive when reporters asked him whether the virus caused any lung damage.
Pneumonia or any inflammation in his lungs at all?
So we've done routine standard imaging. I'm just not at liberty to discuss.
So you're actively not telling us what those lung scans show, just to be clear.
So there are HIPAA rules and regulations that restrict me in sharing certain things for his safety and his own health and reasons.
The president's dismissal of the dangers of COVID and his doctor's evasiveness underscore the national security risk that Trump's diagnosis could represent. As the Washington Post puts it today, the timing could not have been worse. Quote, "The president is hospitalized with a virus he refused to treat as a grave threat in the final weeks of an election whose results he will not pledge to accept as the nation confronts a struggling economy, an unyielding pandemic, and racial unrest. The combination of these crises has plunged the United States into a vortex of potential vulnerability that national security experts said is probably without precedent. Consumed by its own difficulties, the country is in a poor position to respond to provocations by adversaries, to advance its foreign policy interests with support from allies, or serve as a credible model of a functioning democracy," former national security officials said. That's where we start this hour with some of our favorite reporters and friends. Internal medicine physician Dr. Lippy Roy is here. Also with us, New York Times White House reporter Annie Carney, and former Congressman from Florida David Jolly is with us. Lucky for us, all of them are MSNBC contributors. Annie Carney, I want to start with you. And first, congratulations to you and your colleagues on an extraordinary body of reporting, really from the nanosecond we learned of Hope Hicks' positive diagnosis with COVID up through today. But just take me through any of the plot twists I might have missed. It seemed like it was persistent questioning from journalists that really revealed Dr. Conley as someone who wasn't playing it straight, and in further pressing from the press, revealed that he was trying to do what Donald Trump confessed to doing in the Woodward tapes, downplay some of the gravity of the president's condition.
Well, thank you for the compliment on our work, and certainly the persistent questions and reporting from reporters are why we know most of this. Hope Hicks's diagnosis, they did not want to reveal. Jennifer Jacobs of Bloomberg News broke that story. Positive cases in the residence, those people who tested positive were told to keep it quiet. So this huge outbreak that we've been reporting on for the past 3 days is not, the White House did their best to keep as much of this behind closed doors as possible. The overly rosy and optimistic briefing that Conley gave on the first day that the president was at Walter Reed was also revealed to be false, thanks to Mark Meadows, the chief of staff, who in a very strange twist tried to talk to reporters off the record and tell them that it was much grimmer and the worst was still to come, and it was really touchy in the next couple of days. And then that was caught on camera. So his attempt to kind of spin behind the scenes for motivation unclear didn't work. But the twists and turns, we still don't know the full fallout of this. We still don't know. We don't have a firm grasp on exactly how sick the president is or what the next few days will look like. Dr. Conley said today, if we can get till Monday, i.e. a week from today, we will all sigh a big sigh of relief, i.e. he's not sighing a big sigh of relief just because the president is leaving the hospital. Meanwhile, Kayleigh McEnany tested positive today. They're expecting more positive cases to come out, but that's not stopping them from sending a lot of people back on the campaign trail who were exposed to these positive cases simply because they've already tested negative.
Dr. Roy, 4 journalists have also tested positive, including one of Annie's colleagues. I want to ask you about the risks to anyone who is around a COVID positive symptomatic patient like Donald Trump.
Nicole, there's so much going on right now. It's hard to really keep track of all the information that's coming in and changing. The short answer is, and this is really nothing new, we've been saying this since the beginning, which is that if you are in contact with anybody who's COVID positive, you need to self-quarantine for, in the beginning it was 14 days, now it's down to maybe 10 days, but 10 to 14 days. And of course, if you test positive, then you need to isolate for 10 to 14 days. Here's the question. The president, who we believe tested positive, but we're not quite sure exactly when he tested positive, after his discharge today, is he going to remain isolated at the White House? That's what the key is going to be. But can I share with you, Nicole, the 4 questions that I want to ask the medical team? I want to ask them, when was his first COVID positive test? When was his last COVID negative test? What's the result of his actual chest imaging, chest x-ray, chest CT? Because we want to know, did he actually have viral pneumonia? And what's the degree or severity of that viral pneumonia? And does he have underlying bacterial infection? I bring this up because remember, he received steroids, really powerful steroids, dexamethasone, which can also increase your risk of infection because remember, steroids really suppress your immune system. And then the 4th question I want to know is, did the medical team at Walter Reed, excluding Sean Conley, the actual medical team of specialists, ID doctors, pulmonologists, critical care doctors, did they actually approve the president's joyride and his discharge today with 0 political interference? That's what I want to know.
Well, let me play Dr. Conley fielding that question. This is not the source that you're looking for that answer to be delivered from, but here's what they've put on the record so far. Let's watch that.
The president has been a phenomenal patient during his stay here, and he's been working hand in glove with us and the team. And today got to the point he's holding court with those of us around him, the whole team, going over all the specifics, the testing, what the future is, and we have been back and forth on what's safe and what's reasonable, and he has never once pushed us to do anything that was beyond safe and reasonable practice that we all first wanted.
So, Dr. Roy, that seems to contradict the universal condemnation from medical experts of that joyride yesterday. And a patient holding court doesn't really sound like a patient on the receiving end of medical care and science. I mean, what did you hear in that as a doctor, as a physician?
Well, Nicole, I have to be honest. I'm quite skeptical about what we're hearing because it's all being filtered through a man who I believe in his medical credentials, but I believe it's all being filtered and shaped and altered. As a medical professional, I really want to hear actual data, actual vital signs, O2 sats, oxygen saturation. I want to hear why he got that medication cocktail that he got. Mr. Trump is really the only person on the planet, as far as we know, who's received the combination of potent steroids, dexamethasone, the remdesivir, and the monoclonal antibodies, in addition to all the other meds that he takes. The side effects as a result of those medications, the steroids alone cause so many side effects, including agitation, irritability, weight gain, mood changes, as well as a plethora of others. I want to know what the actual rationale for that was, because in some ways it seems like they're throwing the kitchen sink at the president, and those are some of the things I want to know. And yeah, I don't agree with this rosy picture that Dr. Conley is presenting, simply because we don't all have all of the data, Nicole.
So David Jolly, the list of drugs he's been given is almost as long as my list of all caps tweets he sent out this morning, but we put it up there. He's getting extraordinary care, as we would hope that the current American president would get. But here's how hard they've tried to keep this a secret. This is from the Wall Street Journal reporting this morning. As the virus spread among the people closest to him, Mr. Trump also asked one advisor not to disclose results of their own positive tests. Quote, "Don't tell anyone," Mr. Trump said, according to a person familiar with the conversation. Quote, "Don't tell anyone," Mr. Trump said, is where I get stuck. And having been in contact with someone who's ended up positive, who hadn't seen the president since Tuesday, it would seem to me, David Jolly, that this is an outbreak, a super spreading sort of circumstance, whether it doesn't meet the technical, medical, and scientific qualifications for an actual super spreader, that has the president at the center.
Yeah, Nicole, we've got a COVID hotspot at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And I think as we absorb that as a country, we have to be careful and deliberate to not conflate our expectations of information around the president's health with expectations of his behavior and responsible behavior. What I mean by that is, look, nations have only one president at a time. Ours has been stricken by a virus that has proven deadly for some in his peer group. We are naturally intrigued. We want more information about his health. But it is not unusual for a public figure, a president, a member of Congress, a senator, a Supreme Court justice, to protect some of that information. And I think on examining the president's health, the baseline question is, has he been rendered unable to fulfill his duties as a result of the condition of COVID? I think that doctors are clearly saying, no, that's not the case. Beyond that, we're intrigued as to his treatment and the course it's running. But on questions of the president's behavior, both as a patient now who is contagious with a virus that could be deadly, and also as the leader of our nation with the bully pulpit on all matters public health, that is where it is right to render judgment on behavior that proves incredibly irresponsible, from the joyride to questions around contact tracing, to hiding the positive results, which it appears, if not only for him, for those around him, that were hidden from those who may be in contact with him, to his tweet today saying it's no big deal. That's a lie. It is a big deal. Just yesterday, it killed 500 Americans, COVID did. And so I give the president and, frankly, Dr. Conley a little more license on discussing his health. If they want to have a tight lip on that, fine, so be it. I'd like to know more, but okay. But on questions of the president's behavior, he continues to fail every test. And that ultimately is what will have the political implications for the president in a few weeks.
Annie Carney, take me inside what the people who are not homesick recovering from COVID are saying and feeling and doing about this culture, this reporting that Trump wanted positive tests kept secret, this culture that has some impact on mask wearing, because every last one of them rips their mask off before they walk up to a gaggle of reporters. 4 reporters have now tested sick, and the polls that seem to have this snapshot of last week after the debate and up to the diagnosis are just devastating for Donald Trump.
I think there's a lot of anger and shock inside the campaign and inside the White House at the behavior of certain people. There's people serving inside the administration who look at the way their colleagues are behaving and think it's irresponsible. Didn't understand why the press secretary would have kept coming to work after being told by the White House medical unit that she had been in direct contact with Hope Hicks during the time she might have been contagious. The White House's explanation is that Kayleigh was an essential worker and therefore wasn't told to stay home. And then the mask wearing has been a problem in this White House from day one. And that's really a culture of fear that started from the top. I mean, it wasn't hard to see that if you wanted to please the boss, you didn't wear a mask in his presence. And And he made it clear by his public statements to reporters. He made it clear in private meetings where he'd tell someone, just take that mask off, and would kind of disgust if he saw someone wearing it. And that just trickled down to, and I think part of the visceral dislike of masks inside the West Wing, where, by the way, people are now wearing masks more, is because they all trusted this testing system. They all thought, if we're all getting tested every morning, then this is a safe space. And if you wear a mask in a safe space, it's kind of giving a signal that maybe this isn't really a safe space. And it's testing their entire infallibility bubble, which was false. And this has proven that this whole episode has shown that it was false. So they're shocked. They're confused. There's a lot of people are in the dark about why. There's not a lot of leadership. Mark Meadows, the chief of staff, didn't send out any memo to staff until late last night telling them how to behave, what to do in the coming week. So there's just a lot of questions there, too.
You know, Dr. Roy, testing, I mean, I guess we can look to professional sports to see what testing gets you and doesn't get you. In the NBA, testing inside a almost hermetically sealed bubble has been effective. In baseball, at least at the outset, testing while people were still in their communities seemed to be susceptible to whatever was going on in the communities. The Miami Marlins were one of the first teams to deal with a major outbreak. So just talk about the limitations of a testing protocol absent mask wearing, social distancing, and refraining from gathering in non-ventilated closed-in spaces.
Yeah, this is a great topic to discuss and to clarify. Just to follow up on Annie's point about the testing and the fact that it seems like the White House, individuals of the White House, including the president and chief of staff, Mr. Mark Meadows, they've all been justifying not wearing masks because they get tested regularly. So let's be really clear, Nicole. Testing is a diagnostic tool, not a preventive one. The only way that we can prevent getting this disease is by wearing a mask. It doesn't have to be an N95 like I have, but wearing a mask to cover your nose and mouth, and physical distancing. In fact, the physical distancing is even more effective than the mask. Those are the only two things that we have, Nicole, to reduce the transmission of this virus. And we've been seeing this for months now. Testing is really critical, though, to your point, Nicole. And in fact, I'm a hockey fan, and the NHL did the same thing as the NBA, keeping their players in a bubble, no interaction with outside people, fans, family, nobody. And as a result, it's not a coincidence that both the NHL and the NBA have very low, if really any, positive cases. There's a reason for that, Nicole. This is not coincidence. All of these decisions were based on science, on data. Testing is critical and needs to happen both for diagnostic reasons and for surveillance. But at the end of the day, it's going to be masks and it's going to be distancing that's going to save lives. Nicole.
You know, David Jolly, let me give you the last word here. They acted as though the testing gave them license to be COVID promiscuous. And by that, I mean showcasing during their convention, people in chairs smushed close together, not a mask in those, crowds of supporters or attendees. I mean, it really seems to have had potentially deadly consequences.
I think one question the American people will judge Donald Trump on November 3rd is, did he risk the lives of the American people, and did he unnecessarily contribute to the deaths of Americans as a result of his irresponsibly handling the COVID outbreak? We know from his confessions to Bob Woodward, but we can look at his own behavior. Having rallies that basically ignored all the science and all the public health guidance, ordering his administration to downplay the public health guidance, making fun of a reporter on the White House lawn asking a question with a mask on, making fun of Joe Biden. And what this diagnosis has done for this last 3 weeks of the campaign, Nicole, is it reminds every American of Donald Trump's irresponsibility on COVID, which is likely what this election will be decided upon. Donald Trump does not have time to get away from this issue between now and November 3rd as a result of his personal diagnosis.
All right, no one's going anywhere. When we come back, we've seen Donald Trump corrupt entire departments of our government and seek to bend them to his political whims. Are we now seeing the president do the same thing with the medical team charged with caring for him? We'll ask that question next. Plus, Seth Meyers joins us. We'll talk to the late night host about the presidential race, the upcoming debates, and his new show, Talking Politics in Primetime. And with the election just over 4 weeks away, Joe Biden is opening a big lead as he looks to press his case in the biggest battleground state in the country. Deadline White House is back after a quick break. Don't go anywhere.